My name is Emily Carter. I'm 31, live in a quiet suburb of Portland, Oregon, and I teach yoga at a small wellness center tucked behind a farmer's market. The kind of place where people know your name, where fresh coffee is always brewing, and the receptionist always remembers your favorite essential oil blend. I love what I do. It's calm, peaceful, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something meaningful. My life wasn't always like this. I came from chaos. An alcoholic father, a mother who worked two jobs just to keep the lights on. My teenage years were a blur of avoidance and trying not to become what I grew up around. So when I met Ryan Evans during a weekend meditation workshop, it felt like the universe had finally given me a break. He was everything I thought I'd never have. Smart, stable, emotionally available, or so I believed. He worked remotely as a software engineer for a tech company in San Francisco, but preferred the quietness of Oregon, just like me. Ryan was calm, articulate, and had this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the room. Our connection was instant but unhurried. We bonded over a shared love for hiking, cooking, and obscure indie documentaries. He told me I was the first woman who made him want to slow down. And for a long time, I believed that. We moved in together after 8 months. Our home was modest, a two-bedroom house on the edge of the woods with a wraparound porch and a fireplace that always smelled like cedar. On the weekends, we'd sip tea while listening to records or take our dog Toby for long walks. I thought, this is it. This is my forever. His family seemed fine at first. His mother, Charlotte, came across as polite in a forced kind of way. You know, smiles that don't quite reach the eyes. His younger brother, Noah, was more open. He was a free-spirited photographer with a messy apartment and a heart too big for his own good. He'd often swing by unannounced, plop onto our couch, and ask deep questions about life while eating all our snacks. Charlotte, on the other hand, was guarded. She had this old-school vibe, prim and proper, overly concerned about appearances, and weirdly obsessed with control. I could tell she didn't think I was wife material for her son. She never said it outright, but the way her eyes narrowed when I mentioned my yoga job, or the way she fake smiled when I brought over homemade granola, it was all there, unspoken but loud. She works part-time? She asked Ryan once when she thought I couldn't hear. And teaches people how to stretch? She's a certified instructor, Mom, Ryan replied with a sigh. I let it go. You can't please everyone, I told myself. And at the time, Ryan was still on my side. But little things started to shift. Ryan became more distant after Charlotte's visits. He'd pull away faster when we hugged. He'd ask strange questions like, do you still talk to that guy from your yoga class? The one with the tattoos? At first, I laughed it off. Are you jealous? That guy is married with twins. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes, just like his mother's. Then there was Noah. He was my friend. He'd come over and show me pictures from his latest photo shoot or ask me for feedback on his new website. He was kind, thoughtful, and funny in a way that made you feel lighter. And when Ryan was too buried in code to look up, Noah was the one who noticed when I looked tired or brought over soup when I had the flu. One afternoon, Ryan came home early. I was in the kitchen with Noah, laughing over a spilled smoothie that had ended up all over my shirt and the floor. I remember wiping my hands on a towel and hearing the sound of keys in the door. Ryan's face changed when he walked in. It froze, like a computer crashing. What's going on? He asked too calmly. Noah raised his hands, grinning. Relax, bro. I just ruined your wife's favorite shirt with a banana bomb. Ryan didn't laugh. Do you two spend a lot of time alone together? There was silence. I said, Ryan, don't be weird. He just dropped by. We were... Yeah? Ryan interrupted. I'm sure you were just talking. Noah looked between us, confused. Dude, are you serious right now? I think you should go, Ryan said. Noah stared, hurt. Seriously? I tried to stop it. Ryan, come on, this is ridiculous. Ryan just walked upstairs without another word. That night, he didn't touch me, just turned off the lamp and faced the wall. The next morning, Charlotte called. She always had perfect timing. You know, she said casually, I've been thinking about family, bloodlines. It's so important to know who really belongs, don't you think? I could hear the poison in her voice. I could hear the insinuation. That night, as I folded baby onesies, we were trying, after all. I looked at Ryan and said, "Are we okay?" He looked at me, but it was like he didn't see me anymore. "I don't know," he whispered. And suddenly, I didn't either. It didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, subtle unraveling, the kind you don't notice until you're already dangling by a thread. At first, it was little things. Ryan stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings. He stopped texting me to say he'd be late. He stopped looking at me like I was home. Instead, he started looking at me like I was a question he couldn't answer. One evening, I came home from work, exhausted after back-to-back yoga classes. I found Ryan sitting in the living room, the TV on but muted, his eyes fixed on his phone. I kissed his cheek, but he barely reacted. "Tired," he muttered, not even looking up. I sat next to him and asked, "Want to take Toby for a walk later?" He shrugged. "Maybe." That was it. No eye contact, no warmth, just distance. I told myself it was stress, deadlines, work pressure, but deep down, I knew something was shifting. The next weekend, Charlotte dropped by unannounced, carrying a basket of scones and judgment. She made herself at home, sitting stiffly on our couch, her eyes scanning our living room like she was appraising a house she planned to sell. "The place looks lived in," she said, glancing at the laundry basket I hadn't had time to fold. I offered her tea, which she declined, then turned to Ryan and said, "So, I saw that photo Emily posted, the one with her and all those men in her yoga class. Quite open, isn't it?" My stomach tightened. I knew the photo she meant. It was a group shot after class. Nothing provocative. Everyone was smiling, sweaty, relaxed. I forced a smile. "It's just a post-class photo, Charlotte. We do that every month." She raised a perfectly sculpted brow. "Of course. Though I must say, some of those poses are quite intimate." Ryan didn't say anything. He just kept scrolling on his phone, as if he couldn't hear either of us. That night, I asked him point blank, Are you uncomfortable with my job?" He looked at me like I'd asked him something absurd. "No," he said, but the pause before that word said more than the word itself. "Then why do you shut down every time your mother brings it up?" I pushed. He sighed. "Because she's exhausting, Emily, and sometimes I just don't want to deal with it." I nodded, but I didn't believe him. Not completely. Noah came over a few days later. He brought homemade soup, chicken noodle with too much garlic, just the way I liked it, and tried to lighten the mood. "Hey, sunshine," he greeted me, dropping the Tupperware on the counter. "You look like you've been fighting demons." I chuckled weakly. "Just yoga moms and mother-in-laws, usual stuff." He gave me a look. "You okay?" I hesitated. "Ryan's been different." Noah leaned against the counter. "I've noticed." I looked at him, surprised. "You have?" He nodded. "He's tense, snappy. Not like before?" He paused. "He talked to me, said he's been having doubts." "About us?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Noah didn't answer right away. "About the baby." That stopped me cold. I hadn't even told Ryan I was late. I hadn't told anyone. I stared at Noah. "What do you mean?" He scratched the back of his neck. "He asked me if I thought it was mine." The air in the room froze. "What?" I breathed. "He thinks I would do that?" Noah looked genuinely pained. I told him he was being ridiculous, but I think Charlotte's gotten into his head. I sat down, suddenly dizzy. "This is insane," I said. "Ryan knows me. He knows I'd never—" "I know," Noah said quickly, "but he's not thinking straight." My hands trembled as I picked up the soup and placed it in the fridge, trying to stay grounded. "I haven't even taken a test yet," I murmured. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure. Later that night, I sat across from Ryan at the dinner table. The silence was thick, only broken by the occasional clink of cutlery. Finally, I said it. I think I'm pregnant. He looked up, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. Are you sure? Not yet, I said. I'm taking a test tomorrow. He set his fork down. Okay. That was it. No smile, no embrace. Just, okay. The next morning, I peed on the stick and waited, my heart pounding. When the second line appeared, I felt tears sting my eyes. I walked out, holding the test, and showed Ryan. He stared at it, expression unreadable. We're going to have a baby, I said softly. He nodded. Yeah. Then, almost immediately, he added, we should get a paternity test. My mouth went dry. What? Just to be sure, he said, not meeting my eyes. With all the tension lately, I think it's best. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think I cheated on you? I asked, my voice shaking. Do you really think I would lie about something like this? He hesitated, then said, it's not that I don't trust you, it's just, with everything going on. I laughed bitterly. That means you don't trust me, Ryan. Let's not sugarcoat it. I left the house that night and drove to my best friend's apartment. Jessica was a no-nonsense ER nurse with a loud laugh and a zero-tolerance policy for bullshit. She let me in without a word, poured me a glass of wine, and waited until I was ready to speak. He wants a paternity test, I finally said. She blinked. Are you kidding me? I shook my head. He's convinced I'm sleeping with Noah. Jesus Christ, she muttered. That's disgusting. He's your brother-in-law. Tell that to Charlotte, I said, collapsing onto her couch. She's been planting seeds from day one. Jessica narrowed her eyes. This smells like manipulation. She's toxic, Em, and Ryan's letting her get in his head. Back home, Ryan tried to act normal, but the air between us was no longer breathable. We barely touched, barely spoke. I caught him watching me sometimes, not with love, not with worry, but with suspicion, like he was waiting for me to slip. At the next family dinner, Charlotte went in for the kill. We were all seated around her polished oak table, passing dishes and pretending to be normal. Then she looked straight at me and said, So, you're pregnant. Congratulations. And you're sure it's Ryan's? The room went dead silent. I choked on my water. Ryan didn't say a word. Noah stood up. Mom, what the hell? Charlotte waved a hand. I'm just asking what everyone's thinking. I turned to Ryan, begging him with my eyes. Say something. Defend me. But he just stared down at his plate, jaw clenched. I felt my heart fracture. Noah stormed out, muttering, I can't believe this. So, I followed him to the porch, needing air. He lit a cigarette, something he only did when he was stressed. I'm sorry, he said. I should have known she'd do that. I shook my head. No, I should have seen this coming. She's been trying to break us from the beginning. He looked at me then, really looked. You don't deserve this. That night, back at home, Ryan finally spoke. We're going to get the test, he said flatly, after the baby's born. I turned to him. And if it shows he's yours? He didn't answer, and that's when I knew. The man I loved was gone, and in his place was a stranger I couldn't reach. The air in our house grew heavier with each passing day. There were no more good mornings, no soft forehead kisses before work, no shared coffee mugs or warm laughter while folding laundry. Ryan and I existed like strangers trapped in the same space, orbiting each other cautiously, as if afraid to ignite something volatile. I woke up one morning to find him already gone, his side of the bed cold and untouched. The coffee pot was empty. No note, no text. Just silence. Toby, our golden retriever, whimpered as he sat beside the front door, tail flicking with confusion. He felt it too, the shift in energy, the absence of warmth. I tried to go about my day as normal, teaching my classes, helping a client through her recovery from back surgery, smiling through it all like a well-rehearsed act. But inside, I was unraveling. That evening, when Ryan returned, I asked him, Did you get my message? He shrugged, didn't look at me. Busy day. I said I was picking up the ultrasound referral, I added. Thought you'd want to come." He didn't respond, just went straight upstairs. I stood in the kitchen, hand on my belly, blinking away the sting in my eyes. I wasn't asking for much, just for him to be present, to care. But his silence had become its own answer. Charlotte, of course, never missed a chance to remind me that I wasn't welcome. She called frequently now, sometimes when Ryan was home, sometimes when he wasn't. I once answered the phone, thinking it was a client. Her voice cut through like ice. "Still there, I see," she said. "Thought you might have left by now. Must be hard, pretending everything's fine." I held the phone tighter. "You know nothing about us." "Oh, sweet girl," she replied, smug. "I know more than you think. I know you're hiding something. Women like you always are." I hung up. Ryan never confronted her, never told her to stop. I begged him once. "Please, Ryan, just tell her to back off. She's poisoning everything between us." He looked at me, expression blank. "She's just protective." "No, she's cruel," I snapped. "And you're letting her do this." He didn't answer. That night, I cried in the bathroom while brushing my teeth, the foam mixing with tears. I stared at my reflection and didn't recognize the woman in the mirror. At work, I became distant. Clients noticed. My boss, Linda, an older woman with a no-nonsense attitude and a heart like gold, called me into her office. "Emily, you've been off," she said gently. "Want to talk?" I hesitated. Then, quietly, I told her. Not all the details, but enough. She listened, then said, "You don't deserve this, sweetheart. You deserve support, especially now." She paused, then added, "You want time off, just say the word." I thanked her, heart heavy with gratitude. It was the first time in weeks I felt seen. Noah came by less frequently. I understood. Ryan's suspicions had put a wall between them too. But one afternoon, he stopped by with a box of baby books and a handmade mobile he'd crafted from driftwood and watercolor clouds. "I made this for the nursery," he said, holding it out like a peace offering. I took it, my throat tightening. "It's beautiful," I whispered. He looked around. "Is he home?" "Not yet." He stepped inside cautiously. "I miss my brother," he said after a moment. "But I hate what he's becoming." I sat down. "I miss him too. I miss us." "You didn't do anything wrong," he said. "You know that, right?" I nodded. "Doesn't seem to matter." Later that week, we had our ultrasound. I asked Ryan to come. He agreed, reluctantly. The technician smiled as she placed the cool gel on my stomach. "Excited to meet your little one?" I nodded, glancing at Ryan. His arms were crossed, face unreadable. When the heartbeat filled the room, I felt a tear slip down my cheek. The tech pointed. "There's your baby," I smiled. Ryan didn't. Outside, I asked him, "Didn't that move you at all?" He looked at me. "The kid's got blue eyes. You and I don't have blue eyes." I froze. "Are you serious?" "It's just odd." "You're looking for reasons to believe the worst," I whispered, "because you already made up your mind." He didn't respond. That night, I found Ryan in the guest room. His things were in there now. His clothes, his laptop, even his cologne. I stood in the doorway. "You're sleeping in here now?" He didn't look up. "It's just easier." "For who?" I asked. Silence. I turned away, heartbreaking. Jessica called. "Come over," she insisted. "You can't live in that tension." I went. We sat on her balcony, sipping tea. "He's spiraling," she said. "And if you don't draw a line, he'll pull you down with him." I knew she was right, but drawing lines with someone you love feels like cutting into your own flesh. At my next doctor's appointment, I went alone. Ryan didn't even ask how it went. When I mentioned that the baby was developing beautifully, he just nodded and changed the subject. It was like I was raising this child on my own, before he was even born. Then came the breaking point. Charlotte invited us to dinner. I didn't want to go, but Ryan insisted. "We need to be civil," he said. So I dressed up, wore my nicest maternity dress, tried to look like someone whose life wasn't falling apart. At dinner, Charlotte offered wine before remembering I was pregnant. "Oh, right," she said flatly. "No wine for the maybe mother." Noah choked on his water. "Jesus, Mom," he muttered. "Enough." She ignored him. "So, when's the test?" she asked Ryan. "What test?" I asked, already knowing. Ryan cleared his throat. "I told her we'd do a paternity test after the baby's born." My fork dropped. "You told her before you told me?" Charlotte smiled, victorious. "A mother's instinct is never wrong." I stood up. "I'm done." I turned to Ryan. "You're letting her control everything, even how you see me." He looked torn, conflicted, but he said nothing. I left, walked out into the night, my hand on my belly, heart pounding in my chest. Noah followed. I stopped him. "Thank you for standing up, but I can't do this anymore." He nodded. "You shouldn't have to." That night, I slept at Jessica's, cried until my ribs hurt. The next morning, Ryan sent a text. Just 2 words. "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time before deleting it, because sorry doesn't fix the fact that he'd already left me emotionally, that he already chose to believe the worst. And that was when I finally understood. Sometimes, love isn't enough, especially when trust is gone. It was late September when I went into labor. The first cold wind of autumn blew across Portland as we drove to the hospital, headlights slicing through the misty rain. I remember gripping the edge of the passenger seat, trying to breathe through the contractions, and glancing at Ryan as he silently focused on the road. He hadn't said much all day. He hadn't touched me, hadn't smiled. I was about to bring our child into the world, and he was as distant as the fog outside. At the hospital, the nurses were kind. They settled me into a private delivery room, adjusted the monitors, and asked if the father would like to hold my hand. Ryan nodded, but didn't move closer. His jaw was clenched. His eyes darted between the monitor and my face like he was waiting for something terrible to happen. 8 hours later, after screaming, sobbing, and begging for a moment of relief, our son was born. The room filled with the sound of his first cry, a high, sharp wail that pierced my heart. The nurse cleaned him up, wrapped him in a soft blue blanket, and gently placed him in my arms. I looked down and whispered, "Hi, baby. Mommy's here." He had a full head of soft blonde hair and the most piercing blue eyes I'd ever seen. My heart exploded with love, and then everything shattered. Ryan stepped closer, looked at the baby, and froze. "No," he muttered. "No, no, no." I turned to him, confused. "What?" He backed up, his face pale. "He doesn't look like me. This can't be right." "Ryan, what are you saying?" He pointed at our son, voice rising. "Look at him. Blonde hair, blue eyes. That's not me." "Ryan, please." "He looks like Noah," he shouted, loud enough to make the nurse jump. "This isn't my baby." He turned toward me, his face contorted with rage, and in a sudden movement, shoved the blanket away from the baby's face. "You lied to me!" he screamed. "You fucking lied to me!" "Stop!" I cried, holding our son close, shielding him. The nurse stepped in. "Sir, you need to calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down," he roared, his eyes wild. "She's been screwing my brother, and now she wants me to raise his kid." "Get out," the nurse said firmly. "Now." 2 more nurses entered the room. One of them gently took the baby from my arms, while the other guided Ryan toward the door. He didn't resist. He just kept muttering, "He's not mine. He's not mine. I knew it." Then he was gone. The silence afterward was deafening. I lay there, shaking, blood and sweat drying on my skin, tears pouring down my cheeks. One nurse returned the baby to me. "You're safe now," she said gently. "He's perfect. Don't let anyone take that from you." I held my son and whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." Charlotte showed up the next morning. She wore a tailored gray coat and a permanent scowl. She didn't ask how I was, didn't ask about the baby. She stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, and said, "Well, now we know." "Know what?" I asked weakly. "That you're a liar. That baby isn't Evan's blood." I stared at her. "He's Ryan's son." "No," she snapped. "He's Noah's. Everyone can see it." "You're disgusting," I said. "You've been poisoning Ryan against me since day one." "Don't flatter yourself," she sneered. "You were never good enough for my son, and now you've proven it." I turned away. "Get out." "Gladly," she said, and left without another word. Noah came to see me 2 days later. He looked devastated. "I just heard," he said. "Ryan told me everything." I looked up at him, exhausted. "Everything?" "He thinks the baby's mine." "Do you?" I asked. "God, no," he said quickly. "Emily, I would never—" "I know," I interrupted. "I just needed to hear it." He sat beside me, staring at the baby. "He's beautiful, and he looks like you." "Ryan doesn't see it," I murmured. "He only sees what your mother tells him to see." Noah shook his head. "This is all her fault. She's been whispering shit in his ear for years. I just didn't think he'd fall for it." I looked at my son. "His name is Eli." "Hi, Eli," Noah whispered, smiling sadly. Ryan didn't come back to the hospital. Didn't call. Didn't text. When I was discharged, Jessica picked me up. She helped me settle into the guest room at her apartment, set up a makeshift nursery, and stocked the fridge with soup and snacks. "You're not alone," she reminded me. "You've got me. You've got Eli. You've got strength." But the emptiness inside me grew heavier. With every day, Ryan stayed silent. Then, one night, he showed up. Jessica opened the door and let him in with a glare. He looked disheveled, unshaven, hollow-eyed. "I need to talk to her," he said. I stepped out, holding Eli. Ryan looked at the baby, then at me. "I want a DNA test," he said flatly. "And I want Noah to take it too." I stared at him. "You really believe I slept with your brother?" "I don't know what to believe anymore," he replied. "I just need to know." My voice was cold. "And if I say no?" "Then you and the baby can't come back," he said. "I won't raise a child that isn't mine." "You already abandoned him," I said quietly. "You walked out the night he was born." "Because I was shocked," he defended. "Because he doesn't look like me." "You don't look like the man I married," I said, then walked away. That week, I agreed to the test. Not for Ryan, but for Eli. I needed to protect him, to shield him from doubt, from lies. The clinic was sterile and cold. Ryan, Noah, and Charlotte were all there. Charlotte looked smug, like she already knew the answer. Noah looked sick. I handed Eli to the nurse and said, "Do whatever you need." The tests were taken. Then we waited. 3 days later, the results arrived. Ryan opened the envelope with trembling hands. I held Eli close. "Eli Evans," he read aloud. "Biological son of Ryan Evans." The room went still. Charlotte's mouth dropped open. "That can't be right," she muttered. "He looks nothing like—" "Stop," Noah snapped. "Just stop." Ryan looked at me. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I shook my head. "You don't get to apologize. Not now." "I was scared," he tried. "You were cruel," I said. "And you believed your mother over your wife." Charlotte tried to speak, but I cut her off. "You've lost the right to talk to me." She stood, stormed out. Noah followed. Ryan reached for me. "Can we fix this?" "No," I said. "You broke something I can't put back together." He looked like he might cry. I didn't care. I turned, cradling Eli. "We're done." And as I walked away, I felt lighter, stronger. Because for the first time, I wasn't walking toward the pain. I was walking away from it. The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. It tapped endlessly against the windows of Jessica's apartment, like a cruel reminder that life, like the weather, had a way of dragging out its storms. I sat on the couch in my oversized hoodie, Eli asleep in my arms, a soft whimper escaping his lips now and then, as if he felt the weight of everything he didn't yet understand. I hadn't heard from Ryan since the DNA test. Not a call, not a message, not even a request to see Eli. After everything he'd put us through, every accusation, every silence, every angry stare, he had the truth in his hands, and yet there was still no acknowledgement of the damage done. Jessica poured me tea and sat beside me. "Has he said anything?" I shook my head. "Not a word." She let out a long exhale. "Coward." I looked down at Eli's tiny face. He destroyed us before even knowing the truth, before even giving me a chance. Jessica reached out and gently squeezed my hand. "He doesn't deserve you. Or this baby." I knew she was right, but the grief that came with realizing the man I had once trusted with my entire life was now a stranger. It was suffocating. A week passed. Then 2. I started going back to work part-time, teaching yoga again in small sessions. Linda welcomed me with open arms. "You're stronger than you think," she said when I walked in. "But you don't have to be every single day." The clients greeted me with cautious kindness. Some of them knew, through whispers and social media posts, that something had happened. I ignored the questions. I had nothing left to explain. One afternoon, while I was adjusting a client's pose, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Noah. "He wants to talk." I stared at the screen for a long time. "Not now," I finally replied. That night, I sat with Eli on my chest, watching him breathe. My mother called. She lived 3 hours away, in Eugene, and had always been more of a distant support than a daily presence. But after everything, she'd started calling more often. "Are you sure you don't want to move back home for a bit?" she asked. "I've got the spare room. You don't have to do this alone." "I appreciate it, Mom," I said softly. "But I need to stand here, where everything fell apart. I need to rebuild something, on my own terms." There was silence, then a soft, "I'm proud of you." 3 days later, Ryan showed up. I heard a knock and opened the door to find him standing there, drenched from the rain, holding a small stuffed elephant in one hand and an envelope in the other. "Can we talk?" he asked. I let him in, but didn't offer him a towel, didn't offer him a seat. Just stood, Eli tucked securely in my arms. Ryan looked around the room like it was unfamiliar. "This is where you've been?" I nodded. "With people who believe in me." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." "Too late," I said. "You didn't just doubt me, Ryan. You abandoned me when I needed you most." "I was scared," he said. "Scared of being a father, scared of being lied to, scared of turning into my dad." That stopped me. Ryan had rarely talked about his father. I knew he'd been abusive. I knew he'd walked out on Charlotte when Ryan was young. I thought if I lost control, if I didn't know everything for sure, I'd become him, Ryan continued. But in trying to avoid that, I did the same thing. "I hurt you. I hurt Eli." I stared at him. "You made me feel like dirt. You let your mother speak to me like I was some stranger off the street. You left me alone in a hospital room after giving birth to your son." Ryan's voice broke. "I know, and I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to be part of his life. I want to try. Please." I sat down, Eli still in my arms, and let the silence hang for a while. Then I said, "Being a father isn't about biology. It's about showing up. Every day. And you didn't." "I want to now," he whispered. "I'll do anything." "Then start by keeping your mother away from us." His eyes darkened. "She won't be a problem anymore." I raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" "After the DNA test, she said some things. Things I can't forget. I told her we're done. She's out of my life." I didn't respond. It was too late for declarations. I needed actions. A week later, Ryan started showing up. Not barging in, not demanding, just showing up, bringing groceries, dropping off baby wipes, offering to walk Toby. He didn't try to hold Eli right away. He didn't push. He just tried. Jessica was wary. "You're not thinking of letting him back in, are you?" "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to scream at him every time I see his face, but another part of me— "Still loves him?" she asked gently. I nodded. Noah stopped by one afternoon, his expression stormy. "You're letting him near Eli again?" "He's his father," I said. "Biologically, maybe, but he doesn't deserve this second chance." I sighed. None of us asked for this. But Eli did nothing wrong. He deserves a shot at a full family. "And what about you?" he asked. "Do you still love him?" "I don't know what I feel anymore," I admitted. "But I know I'm tired of hating. I just want peace." That weekend, Ryan invited me to a mediation session. "With a therapist," he said quickly. "Not couples therapy, just closure." I agreed. The therapist, a calm older man named Dr. Phelps, guided us through the session. "What do you want from each other now?" he asked. Ryan looked at me. "Respect, co-parenting, maybe one day, trust." I looked at Ryan. "I want honesty, boundaries, and space." "That's fair," Ryan said. We continued the sessions. Slowly, carefully, like two people trying to speak the same language again after forgetting the words. We weren't magically healed, but we were trying to be better for Eli. One morning, I woke up to find a note on the table. "Doctor's appointment today. I'll pick you both up at 10. Ryan." He was showing up, not as a husband, but as a father. And somehow, that was enough for now. It had been 3 months since the DNA results. 3 months since Ryan had started showing up, little by little, trying to piece together the ruins of what we once had. He hadn't asked to move back in. He hadn't pressed for reconciliation, and I hadn't offered it. Still, he was present, changing diapers, buying groceries, reading bedtime stories to Eli with a tenderness that sometimes made my heart ache. We were not a couple anymore, but we were two people orbiting the same small planet. Our son. For a while, it felt manageable, maybe even promising. I had allowed myself to believe we were building something healthier. Not romance, not repair, but responsibility. That was enough, until it wasn't. It started with a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. I had just finished giving Eli a bath and was rocking him to sleep in Jessica's guest room when Ryan's voice carried through the slightly cracked door. He was in the kitchen, talking quietly but urgently. "No, she doesn't know. I told you I'd handle it. Just wait, okay?" Silence. Then, "Don't show up here. Not yet." My heart went cold. I held Eli tighter. I wanted to storm out, demand answers, but I waited. I listened. I said I'd fix it. Just let me talk to her first. The call ended. I stood in the dark for a moment. Eli snuggled against my chest, the rhythm of his breathing keeping me from unraveling on the spot. I kissed his head and laid him gently into the crib, then walked to the kitchen. Ryan turned when he saw me. He froze, guilt flashing across his face like lightning. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. "No one." "Don't lie to me." "Emily," he started, but I cut him off. "I heard you. Who was that?" He sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me," I said. "Tell me before I find out another way." There was a long pause. Then he said, "Her name is Vanessa." My stomach dropped. "Vanessa who?" "Someone I met, a few months ago. It was when everything with us was falling apart." I stared at him, stunned. "You were sleeping with someone else while accusing me of cheating?" "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it, Ryan?" I shouted. "Was it love? Or just revenge?" "It was a mistake," he said quickly. "It meant nothing." "Did you sleep with her before or after you demanded a paternity test?" He looked away. "Before." My breath caught. "Before?" You were accusing me of betrayal while you were already cheating? I didn't know how to handle what I was feeling, he said, voice trembling. I was scared. I was angry. I thought you and Noah. Don't you dare bring Noah into this, I snapped. He defended me. He stood by me when you vanished. He was family when you couldn't even be human. I know I fucked up, Ryan whispered. I know that. I've been trying to make it right. You can't fix this, I said. This isn't a hole in the wall. This is a collapse. Jessica came home to find me pacing the living room, hands shaking. What happened? She asked. I told her, every word. You're done, right? She asked. Please tell me this is the last straw. It's beyond that, I said quietly. I'm calling my lawyer. The next morning, I packed what little I had and moved out of Jessica's place. I rented a small 2-bedroom apartment not far from work, using the emergency savings I'd quietly built over the years. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I called Linda and requested more hours. I called my mom and told her the truth. I called my lawyer and filed for divorce. A week later, I invited Ryan, Noah, and Charlotte to meet me at my new apartment. I wanted no ambiguity, no whispers, no more room for denial. The living room was quiet when they arrived. Charlotte looked around, nose wrinkled in distaste. Cozy, she said. I ignored her. Ryan sat on the edge of the couch, uneasy. Noah leaned against the wall, arms crossed, already suspecting something wasn't right. Thanks for coming, I said, setting a folder on the coffee table. I thought we could talk, one final time. What is this? Ryan asked, glancing at the folder. Divorce papers, I replied calmly. Charlotte gasped. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life, I said. But that's not all. I reached under the table and pulled out another folder. This one filled with photos. You want proof? Here it is. I threw the photos onto the table, one by one. Ryan with Vanessa, arms around her, kissing her neck, smiling the same smile he used to give me. These were taken 2 months before Eli was born, I said, while you were accusing me of cheating, while you were demanding DNA tests. Ryan buried his face in his hands. Charlotte picked up a photo, her face draining of color. Ryan, she whispered, what the hell have you done? What he always does, Noah muttered. Blames everyone else while hiding his own mess. You don't understand, Ryan started, looking at me. It was one night. Save it, I said, voice sharp. I don't need your excuses. I need closure. Emily, please, he begged. I'll sign whatever you want. But don't take Eli away from me. He's not a pawn, I snapped. You can see him, if you learn to show up like a decent human being. But you and I? We're over. I turned to Charlotte. And you? You can stay out of our lives permanently. You can't do that, she hissed. I'm his grandmother. You were never a mother to me, I said. You destroyed your own family the moment you decided I was the enemy. Noah walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. I'm with her, he said. I'm done with this circus. Noah, wait, Charlotte called out, but he shook his head. No, Mom, I'm done. He turned to Ryan. You made your bed, man. Lie in it. Then he looked at Eli, asleep in his carrier. He deserves better than this. And with that, he left. I picked up the divorce papers and handed them to Ryan. Sign them. Don't make this harder than it already is. He nodded slowly. Okay. Charlotte stood frozen in the doorway. You'll regret this, she muttered. No, I said. I regret nothing, because now I get to start over. After they left, the silence in the apartment was warm instead of cold. Eli stirred in his sleep, making a soft cooing sound. I walked over and kissed his forehead. We're going to be okay, I whispered. No more lies. No more waiting for someone to choose us. We choose ourselves. That night, for the first time in months, I slept without fear. And when the sun came up, I wasn't just a woman broken by betrayal. I was a mother reborn by truth. Winter settled over Portland like a quiet apology, dusting the rooftops with soft layers of snow and wrapping the city in an uneasy stillness. It had been 6 weeks since the divorce was finalized, 6 weeks since Ryan signed the papers without a word, without a fight, without even the decency to ask how Eli and I would move forward. I didn't need him to anyway. By then, I had already begun to rebuild. Our new apartment, though small, had slowly transformed into a sanctuary. The walls were no longer bare, but filled with soft hues and watercolor paintings, some mine, some gifts from Noah, who had taken up painting as a form of therapy. The nursery glowed with string lights, a little nightlight shaped like a cloud blinking softly above Eli's crib. It was warm, it was ours, and it felt like peace. Eli was growing fast, laughing, rolling over, babbling in his sweet baby language that made every bad memory soften. He had Ryan's jawline, maybe, but his eyes, they were entirely his own, bright, curious, filled with a kind of clarity that reminded me why I had survived. Every morning began the same way now. Coffee in hand, Eli on my hip, the two of us looking out the window while soft music played in the background. No shouting, no tension, no walking on eggshells, just air I could finally breathe. Jessica stopped by often, still protective as ever. She'd bring over lasagna, baby clothes, or just her company. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching some crime documentary while Eli slept nearby, she said, "You're different now." I raised an eyebrow. "Different good or different broken?" She smiled. "Different powerful. You own your space now. You walk like someone who survived hell and kept walking." I looked down at the mug in my hands. "Some days I still feel like I'm dragging pieces of myself." "Then drag them," she said. "But you're still moving. That's what matters." Noah had become a constant presence, not as a romantic figure, though people loved to assume that, but as a friend, a brother in arms, someone who understood the emotional landmines we had all walked across. One Sunday afternoon, he dropped by with his new rescue dog, a timid little mutt named Scout, who took to Eli instantly. As Eli giggled, pulling at Scout's floppy ears, Noah leaned against the kitchen counter and said, "She reached out." I looked up from the sink. "Who?" "My mother." I froze. "What did she say?" "That she wants to apologize. That she wants to meet Eli properly." I scoffed. "After everything?" "I didn't say I was buying it," he said. "But she's alone now, and maybe that's the only thing she truly feared." I shook my head. "She made her choices." Noah nodded. "And we made ours." That night, while rocking Eli to sleep, I thought about Charlotte. Her sharp words, her icy glances, the way she had tried to break me with whispers and innuendo. But in the end, it wasn't me she broke. It was her own son, her family, her legacy. The next day, I received a letter in the mail. No return address. The handwriting was familiar, tight, elegant, old-fashioned. I opened it slowly, heart pounding. "Emily, I know I am the last person you ever want to hear from. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a reply. But I do owe you an apology. You were right. I let my own bitterness blind me. I didn't trust you. I didn't protect my son from himself. And worse, I helped him destroy the one thing that could have saved him, a good woman and a beautiful child. Eli deserves better than what we gave him. You deserve better. I will keep my distance, but I needed you to know I was wrong. Charlotte." I stared at the letter for a long time, not with anger, not even with sadness, just a quiet sense of finality. Some wounds heal without reconciliation. Some doors close without anyone knocking again. And that was okay. Not everything broken needs to be fixed. Some things are meant to stay behind. Ryan, for his part, showed up for visitation as agreed. Twice a week, timely, polite, detached. He brought toys, diapers, sometimes books he thought Eli might like. But he didn't bring the energy of someone fighting to be present, just someone fulfilling an obligation. The spark he once had for fatherhood was buried beneath layers of shame and consequence. I didn't pity him, but I didn't hate him anymore either. I had let go, and in doing so, I found freedom. On Eli's first birthday, I threw a small party in the community center near our apartment. It wasn't extravagant, but it was filled with warmth. Linda came, holding a teddy bear almost bigger than she was. A few of my yoga students dropped by with handmade cards. Jessica brought cupcakes with tiny edible stars. Noah arrived with Scout, a homemade banner, and a disposable film camera. "You need physical memories," he said, "not just digital ones." Ryan showed up too, late, alone. He gave Eli a gift, an old leather-bound journal. "For when he's older," he said quietly, "so he can write his own story." It was the most thoughtful thing he'd done in a year. I nodded, said thank you, and turned back to Eli. As everyone sang happy birthday, and I helped Eli blow out his single candle, I felt a peace settle inside me. This moment, this tiny room filled with real love, was everything I had been fighting for. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what I had imagined when I first said, "I do." But it was honest, and that made it enough. That evening, after everyone had left and Eli was sleeping soundly, I sat on the floor of his room, the leftover balloons casting soft shadows on the walls. I opened a fresh notebook and began to write. "Dear Eli, you came into this world surrounded by noise, pain, and doubt. But you, my love, are made of something much stronger. You are joy. You are light. You are the reason I got back up every time life knocked me down. One day, when you're old enough, I'll tell you everything. Not to make you angry, not to make you sad, but so you'll know what resilience looks like. So you'll know that your mother never stopped fighting for your peace. And so you'll never question your worth. Love, Mom." I closed the notebook, placed it on the shelf beside his crib, and sat there for a while, just listening to his breathing. My heart was full. My scars were still there, but they no longer bled. My past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. The end of us, me and Ryan, wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning of a life I built with my own hands, rooted in truth, nurtured by love, and protected by strength I didn't know I had. And as the snow fell gently outside, I knew, with certainty, I had finally come home. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful journey like this one. Every week, we share real emotional stories that remind us of the strength it takes to rise after the fall. Whether it's love, loss, betrayal, or healing, you're not alone. This channel is a safe space for stories that matter. Thank you for being here. Your support means more than you know. Stay strong, stay kind, and we'll see you in the next story.